Well, the year we've had or are still having, because this isn't over yet, we can still put the cherry on top this Sunday at Camp Nou. It's a masterpiece. If you tried to plan this, it wouldn't turn out the same. Still, oh my goodness. With this, also Carreras confirmed in the last few hours through a, story or statement. Now, they do it on Instagram saying that, admitting that, yes, I mean, not literally, but come on, what was said in the last few hours about Rudiger's slap? Well, it's true, really. It's incredible. Well, in this situation, the topic of Mourinho is coming up, and in a big way, and there would be some conclusions. Conditions from the Portuguese coach, but on pretty tough terms, because otherwise he wouldn't accept the likely offer from Real Madrid. Come on, we've got a situation here. Well, this is what Carreras said last night. He said, in the last few days, certain insinuations and comments have come up about me that don't match reality. I've been fully committed to this club and my coaches from day one, and it will stay that way now that I'm back. I always work with professionalism, respect, and dedication. I worked hard to achieve my dream of returning home. Well, that's enough about certain comments that have been made. It's true about his personal life, whether he goes out or not in this, obviously. I always tell you, I don't know, but when so many things are being said, and it wouldn't be the first or the last time that a football player comes out to deny things that later turn out to be true. Hey, or maybe they're lies, because a lot of times things are made up in almost every case. But it's true that when a lot is said about a football player, about his life off the field, it's very likely that things are exaggerated, or so many things are said that I don't believe all of them. But if something is being said, there must be something to it. And honestly, I could have expected it from anyone else except Carreras. Anyway, this year with Asensio, with Carreras, with Jude Bellingham, really, really. And this goes back also to the Club World Cup. With certain attitudes that we now remember, there are always things that are more serious than others. But they were already telling you that this locker room, and we were also coming off a spectacular mess with Ancelotti. That makes it even worse, really, even worse. I'll come back to that with the players and with the fact that the Bernabeu let them know very clearly. Some others complained, saying that wasn't the way to do it. It's being shown that the behavior of the squad, or at least a large part of the squad, at least half the squad, this year has been shameful, really shameful. Well, let's keep reading his story, because this is the point where he could have denied it too, and yet he doesn't deny it. Regarding the incident with a teammate, he doesn't mention Antonio, the Mullah Antonio, as the other guy says. He says it's a specific matter without relevance that's already settled. My relationship with the whole team is very good. A la Madrid, well, it seems so. It seems that what Miguel Serrano TV said, look, my namesake, Miguel Serrano TV on Latico, was true. And he said this 2 days ago, right? About there having been, a slap from Rudiger. And watch out, because last night, Miguelito also talked about it on the Cope network. Check out what he said about this episode.
February. So we've confirmed it.
Just a moment. Wait now.
Topic, because the one you were just talking about a few minutes ago, that slap Antonio Rudiger gave Alvaro Carreras in the locker room, that was in February, okay? It was in February. So we've confirmed it. That's how it was. I think it was the day after the team bonding dinner. So,
well, it's about the team meeting. Yes.
Well, that day there was, the atmosphere was heated because Rudiger, I'm telling you, slapped the poor guy.
Look, there will be a lot of people who are going to write to me now, others who have stopped watching the video and so on, and who will say no. But it's just that this guy only makes things up. Look, I know there are journalists, not that they make things up, but they exaggerate. And sometimes more information is given that is misinformation or is just plain lies. But we always take it as if he's lying, like everything he says isn't true. No, and many things, especially when several colleagues agree things have gone too far, and here we are. Mostrando porque Carreras no lo ha desmentido. And we're going back to February, huh? And everything that happened before, huh? And how some players undermined Xavi. And at the Club World Cup, yes, the episode of falling asleep, which I'll show you now what a gatekeeper thought. Someone who wanted to be right in January, and now that he's not, well, he just blocks people, including me, and that's Juanma Rodríguez, right? And, well, him and that girl, the one who also appears on Basuro, Dromo, that show from El Chiringuito, etc., who are now quiet, like doors, or, well, just hanging around there. Because one always, when trying to create narratives, follows, number one, the role given to them by the boss, because Pedrero gives everyone a role there, right? well, then they have to, of course, they have to keep changing it and all that. So they don't admit that. In fact, either they were wrong or they directly did something that's wrong as Madrid fans, right? And here I'm going to try not to make the same mistake as them by deciding who's a real fan. But insulting Real Madrid players who are currently wearing the Real Madrid jersey or the coach and so on, well, man, that's not very good for the club. Well, it doesn't seem that way either. I've never crossed that line myself. You can criticize like we've done recently with Mbappe these last few days, and at the same time praise Vinicius for certain things. And a few months ago, it was the other way around. I mean, it's just not right. But here people take sides with the football player, the president, or a certain coach. Then they're trapped indeed by their own words, and I don't know how they manage to get out of it later, but they do, because they also have their followers and their sheep. We always joke about Narnia, Barcelona fans, and similar things. There's also a surprising amount of weak Madridism on social media, and some people even support certain characters. And ever since I made a video talking about this guy, Juanma, there were people who stopped following me too. And look, I'm totally fine with it. I mean, if they want to unfollow me, fantastic. I mean, in the end, if they end up saying that, it's because they didn't want to be part of this community. I really don't care. But like I always tell you, I don't blindly side with anyone. We always try to see the nuances in behaviors. And well, I don't like it. I don't usually do it. But as for showing a bit of pride about what we were saying back in January, well, yeah, damn right, because a lot of people were hurt and what we were saying was actually happening. Some people may have stopped watching your channel. I just don't like you criticizing Madrid. We weren't saying negative things about Madrid without reason. It was because those things were happening, and it's clear that they're still happening. I always tell you the same thing. Let's believe in some of this. Let's take a lot of things with a grain of salt. When many colleagues discuss the same topic, it usually means something is happening. And I ask you, with what we're seeing, was it necessary to boo the team in that match against Levante? I'm not saying you had to boo Vinicius throughout the whole match. I already criticized that. I said, look, it's okay to start the match with a bit of that, but that's where we should stop. That's what I always criticized. But to the team in general, during that reception, of course, because they needed to be shown something. And what about the Real Madrid coaches? They haven't booed the latest ones. They haven't booed Ancelotti at the Bernabeu. They haven't booed Xabi Alonso, and they haven't booed Arbeloa up until now. And besides, Arbeloa doesn't deserve it either, nor do the players. Yes, well, that's what I wanted. That was the message they wanted to send. The Real Madrid fans, those at the Bernabeu, which isn't all of them, but well, they're the ones who go to the stadium, the members, the majority, of course, to the squad, because they knew they had acted badly, which they had. But there were people here gatekeeping, as I say, who said that's very wrong, and all that. Well, Juanma Rodríguez, and I know there are a lot of Juanma fans out there. Juanma has blocked me. I haven't insulted him. I haven't said anything to him. Well, yes, he gatekeeps, of course, because he actually insulted all of us at the beginning. But anyway, there was an exchange of messages and tweets back then, and he handled it in a really strange way because he would post tweets and then delete them. He wouldn't reply by quoting me. He wouldn't reply. I mean, he wouldn't quote the person he wanted to answer. He would just throw messages out there and stuff. And then he goes and blocks me, right? Because it was obvious he was talking about me. But anyway, and also in a way, I don't remember exactly how some of the messages went, but in a pretty offensive way, really offensive. At first, without me saying anything, I've known Juanma since my time at Marca TV. I got along well with him, and the only thing I said was that he was doing something wrong. Going after the Real Madrid coach and a Real Madrid player at the time with Mbappe, not even now with what Mbappe has done. Did you think it was normal, or would you think it's normal today if he used the same insults and the same disrespectful way of talking about him at this moment, right? I mean, just imagine before, right? But anyway, this is what, because this clip is fantastic, this is what Juanma Rodríguez said about Vinicius. Wait, I'm going to talk about Vinicius, okay? This was back in 2018. Okay, 2018. Hold on, let's see. And I admit that in 2018, I was the first to say that Vinicius was a footballer who was missing some things, that he started plays like Pelé and finished them like Gravesen. But, well, I'm not hiding. I've already said it. And then I was surprised by how Vinicius managed to completely turn around that sporting situation and become the best footballer in the world. Here, Juanma, who loves to pontificate, said something about Vinicius that will shock you.
Before, Madrid fans would stand in front of the mirror and say, this guy doesn't have quality, this guy doesn't have quality. Who are they? Who are they? You all know. No, say it. You say it. You say it. Let the gurus say it. So we don't know. Let the gurus say it. Vinicius doesn't have the quality to play for Madrid. What? Rodrygo. Vinicius. Rodrygo doesn't have the quality to play. Let's see what he does tonight. Let's see what he does tonight. Let's go for it. Lucas, thank you for everything, Lucas, and see you next time. Who said that? Vinicius, Rodrygo, Lucas, Jovic, I don't know if he has the quality or not. If he has quality or not, because we haven't seen him either. To me, it seems I get the impression that he doesn't have the quality for Madrid. Marcelo, really Marcelo, one of the best fullbacks in the entire history of Real Madrid. You're not in any condition to compete.
This was in 2019, since Jovic was already there that summer. Well, a few months later.
Isco, don't wait until January 1st, seriously. Look for an opportunity tomorrow if you can. I'm telling you the truth. He's not fit for Madrid. He's not. Those players just aren't up to it.
Early 2019, Madrid won that league, which became the pandemic season. That league with Zidane. And here they were saying Zidane was in the eye of the storm and all that, because he's also talking about January 1st, so about 2020 for Isco, so he would leave. Well, it's true that Marcelo and Isco were already going a bit downhill, but he says that neither Rodrygo nor Vinicius had quality. What an eye he had, huh? With everything that happened later and the other two Champions Leagues that were won, with, of course, Vinicius' stellar participation and also Rodrygo's important contribution. Rodrygo.
But others, when they come on, they make a difference, but for some mystery that Jamidu must have in his head, because sometimes I think it's Jamidu who makes the lineups by flipping a coin they never play. Why don't you give Mariano a chance?
Man, seriously, what an eye. Juanma really had an eye for football, huh? Why don't you give Mariano a chance?
To Mariano? Why don't you give them to him? When I see Mariano come on, I see a guy who's hungry, who presses, who fights, who scores when he gets a chance. Why don't you give Mariano a chance? Why?
Now look at this guy now, huh?
Why don't you let us try Mariano? So, and then there are players who just don't deliver for whatever reason, one way or another. Eden Hazard, last season, very bad. This season, for whatever reason, coronavirus, injuries, mediocre. So the sooner Madrid fans get on the right side.
Well then, if he's already talking about the coronavirus, it's 2020, of course. This is 2020. This is from 2020 to 2021, right? The last season of Zidane's second coming. Madrid had just won La Liga, and that season Atletico beat us to the title by 1 or 2 points with a spectacular robbery at the end. I understand this is autumn. So it's from 2020, right? Or maybe already in 2021, but anyway, that season. Well, that's it. Why Mariano didn't get opportunities and that Vinicius didn't have the quality to play for Real Madrid. Well, he himself has now been pontificating, acting like the great supporter of Vinicius and all that, just so you see. They changed their opinions like they changed their jackets. But luckily, there's the archive. This is Juanma Rodríguez a few days ago. I'm not surprised that Vinicius fell asleep during a talk by Xavi Alonso. What surprises me is the singular. It's surprising that the others didn't fall asleep. Here, just to be right, to keep wanting to be right, because he's not. What he does is, besides the fact that back in the day he insulted Xavi, he was very dismissive towards him, which wasn't good for the team at all, nor for the club. But they already think this one and the other one and the one over there, they think that what they say is good for the club. And the rest, what the others do, is bad, right? Try falling asleep in front of your boss during a meeting, Juanma Rodríguez. And above all, try not to fall asleep when it's just you and him alone, okay? Given everything that could happen on every level. But look, in the most strictly professional sense, he would scold you. How could it be any other way, okay? How could it be any other way? And this man thinks it's okay for subordinates to show their boss this kind of disrespect. So you can't trust a guy who, what can I tell you? If now it's Mbappe who falls asleep with Arbeloa during a talk, he would criticize Mbappe harshly. He doesn't criticize Vinicius in the Xavi Alonso case because he had it out for Xavi Alonso. So who can you trust? From a guy who, if Mbappe fell asleep with Xavi Alonso, would obviously criticize Mbappe as expected, but when it's Xavi Alonso and Vinicius, he changes his mind? or from someone like, and forgive me for mentioning myself and many others, who has some common sense and logic. We criticize or would criticize both things because we actually criticize both things. And we don't side with either a coach or a player, because what's important to us is the club. It's Real Madrid. Who do you trust? Someone like this. Or someone like, in this case, I can speak for myself, but there are others too. Well, I think that's pretty clear, right? But anyway, look, Mourinho might end up coming, right? He's going to be thrilled if he does. Let's see whether Mourinho actually comes. By the way, I remember that tonight there's a great match. I forget the order. Paris Saint-Germain versus Bayern Munich, or Bayern Munich versus Paris Saint-Germain. The second match of the Champions League semifinals. It's going to be a great game for me. And we're going back to Vigar. Since we haven't done Vigar in a month, we're going back here to Vigar and we're going to react to the match. So I'm going to put the link here in the description of this video down below so you can join me and a few of us can be there. Come on, let's try to have a lot of people because, well, it's a match that doesn't really affect us, but we're going to have a great time. I think Bayern will win, honestly, rather than Paris Saint-Germain. But, well, I wouldn't really mind if Paris Saint-Germain goes through. What I want is to see goals, a show and all that, and for us to experience it together. I'll put the link down here in the description, and then I'll see you there at 9 or 5 to 9 when the Champions League match starts. Like I said, Mourinho, that's what the guys from Le Journal du Real were saying yesterday. Besides things about Mbappe, they were saying this about Mourinho. It's in French, so let's just translate it directly. They reveal Mourinho's conditions to return to Real Madrid. Take this with a grain of salt, of course. Sergio Valentin already said that yesterday Mourinho and Florentino Perez spoke by video conference with Jorge Mendes listening in. Number one, just 2 conditions. He wants to make all the sporting planning decisions, and 2, which I think is fantastic. He wants full authority in the day-to-day management of the team, no matter which player is affected and without repercussions. It's clear, right? And there's no need to mention any names there. Well, that would be wonderful, but let's see if Florentino Perez is okay with that or not, because in the end, it all comes down to that. Anyway, Mourinho needs to know that when he arrives at Real Madrid, Rodrygo won't be injured, Militao won't be injured, and Mendy won't be injured. And 2 of these 3, because Militao, of course, well, we still can't even think about selling him, even though his professional career has gotten a lot more complicated. Could they have profited from Rodrygo and Mendy this summer? With both injured long-term and Mendy needing surgery, it's impossible now. He probably has what he had last year and will be out for 5 months. Rodrygo, will see if he makes it this year, but I doubt it. And Militao, I think he'll be back well into the fall or around then. And so Mourinho, if he comes, is going to have a lot of work, especially he wants guarantees. Klopp likely wanted more guarantees than these, even though they're sufficient. He also said they shouldn't even count on him in theory. Let's see. But anyway, if Mourinho comes like that, I'm telling you, I don't care. I mean, I hadn't removed the logo, sorry. If Mourinho or anyone else comes like that, honestly, anyone who comes with those demands and they say, all right, full authority is fine by me. Go right ahead, absolutely. And if it messes up the squad for them, even better. Because let me remind you of this, which is how we started this video. Another chapter in the farce we've endured all year. Take care, like, subscribe, comment, and share if you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye.